Welcome to the official podcast. Eric Allen and my new teammate Bart Scott here in studio to start the year. We are joined by a former teammate of the Mad Backers. That is Joe Flacco. You guys played one season together way back in 2008.
It was a great season, though. It was a great season, though.
Advanced to the AFC Championship game, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a fun story. You want to tell the story about how you got the starting gig when you knew you were going to be the starting quarterback on a plane?
Wow.
When did I find out on a plane? I don't remember exactly when I found out that I was going to be starting for sure. You know, I remember, I think it was the week of, we were playing St. Louis in the preseason, and Kyle Bowler tore something in his shoulder that week of practice. And I wasn't supposed to play at all in the third preseason game. That was Kyle and Troy were kind of going at it. Yeah. So Kyle goes down, and then Troy comes up. Troy Smith gets
viral infection.
Ohio State.
Illness. You know, he gets really sick, and we weren't sure how serious it was at the time. And even the night before the game, it was like, we don't know what's going on with Troy. He might come in and play. Whatever. And I think it was 10 o'clock the morning of the game that they told me, all right, Joe, you're the only quarterback we have. You're playing the whole game. And I remember going to the time room, and just, you're a rookie. And I remember thinking, oh, my gosh, here we go. And, just going through my stuff, making sure I'm on top of it and all that stuff. And you go out there, and I played the whole game against the Rams in the third preseason game and did a good job, for the most part. And then we had the Falcons the next week in the fourth preseason game, and they flew Casey Bramlett, who played in Miami with Cam Cameron. They flew him in overnight. I think he landed sometime overnight the day of the game. And I played 3 series, I believe, in the Atlanta Falcons, the fourth preseason game, and then he played the rest of the game on a couple hours of being in Baltimore. Yeah. And then we went right into Cincinnati, and that was it.
The star was born.
Does it feel like yesterday, though? Because now, as you're approaching a game, week 1 of the 2022 season, you're laughing oftentimes here at One Jets Drive where the guys are saying, hey, Flacco, you're the old guy at 37.
Yeah. Hey, when I think back at that right there, I can kind of put myself right back in that hotel room and in those situations. So yeah, it feels like yesterday. I got plenty of stories to tell about Bart that you can't necessarily tell on any kind of media, even podcasts. But no, it feels like yesterday. And I don't view myself as being, this is my 15th year. I don't view myself as that. I remember when I was playing with Bart and Ray Lewis was on the team, and I do remember how I looked at him and these guys when I was younger. You grew up watching them play, but I don't necessarily think of that when I not to talk about Ray Lewis and myself, but I don't view myself as being in the league 15 years. I just view myself as a player. This is my 5th year. I'm 27 years old, whatever it may be. That's how I view myself. And then every now and then you can kind of see that these young guys are looking at you a little bit different. They're looking at you a little strange. Man, how long have you been around? And that kind of wakes me up a little bit and reminds me of how long I've been doing it.
So you got the little salt and pepper, a little,
That's right.
little Papa Smurf going on now.
Right.
But now life kind of comes full circle, as we can call this the Flacco Bowl, or we can call this the C.J. Mosley Bowl. But kind of going full circle all the way back to where it all began, to going against a familiar opponent, organization that you know well. How are you preparing for that emotionally and physically? For week 1 in a tough environment.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately going to be tough to completely prepare for it because I've never been through it personally. You've played. I think you played us that next year, right? In 2009, right up here. Did we open up here?
We almost got a pregame fight with Ray Rice.
There you go.
Craziness.
I've seen some people go through it. I've definitely seen some people play some old teams that were significant players on the teams that they came from. And as much as they tried to keep it in check and do all that, that's all good to say and talk about until all of a sudden the lights turn on, it's game time, and, your emotions get the best of you. And, so like I said, it's honestly, that's what's great about football. It's a team sport. It's about the team. You just got to play your role. So I'm going to make sure that I try to do that as much as possible. But, like I said, I've been through it enough times to see how emotional it can be. So I think I'd be a little bit naive to think that there's going to be zero of that,
When Zach Wilson goes down in Philadelphia, what do you think automatically? And then after some time goes by, when does it start coming to the realization that it is going to be week one. It is the Ravens.
Yeah, well, I think you initially just, you put yourself in that situation and you feel for the player and you hope that he's actually, ultimately okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, depending on what you were thinking in that moment, it's probably the best possible outcome for him, but immediately your mind after that kind of goes to, okay, like, does this mean I'm going to play right away?
Yeah.
I got to, I'm ready, but like, let's go. Here we go. So yeah, I mean, I've been in enough situations now in this role to kind of be able to know that I'm going to prepare and have been thrown in there right away, like in the middle of a game. So it's all a little bit different. And, obviously you see, oh man, we're playing Baltimore this year. That's going to be interesting. Even if I was going to be on the sideline.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily, I was like, okay, we're playing them in New York. That'll be cool,
Yeah.
I think now that I'm playing, there would be something extra cool about playing in Baltimore. But either way, like I said, like all the things that we just talked about, listen, it's a completely new team for the most part. There's a handful of players, obviously. I mean, the last year I was there was 18. It wasn't that long ago. So there are some players that were still there. But if you're talking about the bulk of my career and the guys that I actually played with, in terms of that, it's a completely new football team.
Yeah.
It's just the same organization. So, sometimes we make too big of a deal out of these things and stuff like that. Guys switch teams all the time.
Yeah.
I think I'm a quarterback, so obviously it's a little bit different for whatever reason. And Coach Harbaugh's still there, but a lot of the coaching staff's, probably pretty similar to how I was in 18, but even that's a lot different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but the great thing about playing an opponent is they think they know you, right? And
Right.
they try, they're in the meetings now. Okay, he doesn't like to do this.
Right.
He doesn't get off the spot. So that stuff are going.
Yeah.
And when you became the starter and got named the starter, you think about all the young guys that you have there. Immediately, you have to start getting that nonverbal communication with the young players. And now they're looking to you because you're the savior, right? You have all the answers. You're the OG.
Right.
You're the OG now. You have all the
Yes.
answers. So how is that the weeks of preparation and even the preseason been with trying to get that nonverbal communication and you learning how your receivers, where they like the ball at, what their strengths are, the weaknesses, how it looks when they're coming out of a break?
I think it's an exciting opportunity, like when you have guys like that are, really good football players with a bunch of ability, but they're young and they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, like, you're not okay with the mistakes, but you better not be getting too out of control emotionally when
Have
they do make
children prepared
them.
you for that?
Yeah,
Have children prepared you for the immaturity of the young
for
kids?
sure. And I found out that at least with my kids, I'm not as patient as I thought I was. But in this situation, I do really look forward to it. I feel like I like this situation of being that guy. I hope that people look at me and say, okay, at least, Joe's in the huddle, like, we're good, and they can, and that allows them to move on to the next play and wipe the last one out, because, ultimately in a football game, there's going to be things like that happen, and you have to have something to ground you and move you on. So I hope that I can be that. Obviously there's times where you're going to have to push those guys and get in order to get the best out of them, because they're going to be going through things mentally that may slow them down because they're thinking too much, and you're going to have to be able to push them through those things. But I definitely look forward to it.
How is it all tied together when you're playing against a team that throws some exotic pressure packages at you? Everybody focuses on the offensive line, but you're talking about young receivers you're working with too. How much do you have to emphasize precision against a team like Baltimore?
Oh yeah, it's always a team effort. Obviously, the offensive line, in terms of sacks and things like that, but it is a team effort. And listen, we run an offense where hopefully the receivers don't have to do too much thinking about those things. They can just go play and run their routes, play their game, and not have to worry about that. So as long as they're in the right places in the right timing, then it's up to me to be able to identify those things and understand when I have to get the ball out of my hands and when I have a little bit of time to maybe go through my progression.
Yeah. Now you're with LaFleur. Like, he's new to the game as well, as far as being an offensive coordinator. But, you're a veteran, and how much input have you had in kind of maybe anticipating some of the exotic blitzes? Because we don't really know, because Wink Martindale's not there anymore, so we don't know really what to expect. But how much of the ownership have you been given to kind of make adjustments and freedoms to kind of use your football acumen to make adjustments on the fly?
I think most of it comes down to like, hey, do we think we can do this, or do we think we should just not worry about doing this and just stick with this? And it's those back and forth. What we think we can get away with, and maybe what we don't think we can get away with. I know Mike's a young guy, and he's only called offenses for he's only called plays for a year. These guys come from a good background, and at the end of the day, it's about trust either way. So he is the coordinator. I'm the quarterback. And I do want to have a little bit of input, in terms of, certain little things here and there. But at the same time, I want to be able to rely on him to do his thing and put us in good situations, because that's what he's there to do. And, we as players are there to execute it. And I'm no different in that.
How far has this roster come? You've played here in 2020 and 21. And now we talk about the transformation that we've seen over the last 18 months. Just watching on the practice field, you see the speed. You see explosive ability. Mm-hmm. You think about, hey, listen, we don't have to rely on 12-play drives to get down the field. We got some home run hitters, and then also the depth on this roster.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I've talked about it a lot. It's obviously a topic of conversation with people. I feel like we're at the point where we sense that. We sense like, hey, like. Yeah. We're pretty good, I think, right? Yeah. And the young guys, like a lot of them don't know any better. They're good. They feel like they're good. Yeah. They haven't necessarily experienced the last couple of years of not winning a lot of games, so they feel good. But I think we definitely have a lot of momentum behind us right now, but we still haven't done it on a Sunday consistently. So while we're getting there, while that confidence is kind of starting to take off a little bit, we still have to turn the corner, which is going out there and proving it on Sunday. So I think we're right in that area there now that, I'm hoping that we're dangerous because of it, and I hope that we realize sooner rather than later how good we can be. And then you never know. I mean, once you get that little bit of boost of confidence and guys are playing, without thinking about a lot, and they're just going out there and playing football and they're being physical, that's when it really comes together. Because you can go out there and you can be assignment sound and you can take care of the football, but if you're just doing the right things and you're kind of like just I did that right and I'm happy with that, then you'll be okay. Right. You won't make mistakes. You'll be okay. But I think we're right on the edge of getting to the point where we know what we're doing. We're confident about what we're doing. So now we can actually play football. We can go get people, be physical, play fast. Not settle for the 15-yard completion. We can catch the ball with our feet on the ground and turn upfield and break one, So I think we're getting close to that spot.
Belief's a powerful thing, right? Mm-hmm. When you came in as a rookie, expectations weren't that high for us as a team, and we kind of snuck into the playoffs and we caught fire. We came together as a team. And a lot of that was the off-the-field relationships that we had as far as building bonds and things like that. Now, when you talk about, this team and this roster, and when you look back, does Joe Flacco still have something that he wants to prove to people? Or are you just playing with house money? I mean, you're a Super Bowl MVP. I mean, people forget about, when you came in this league, how many playoff games you won. Every year, you guys were a legitimate threat. Your record on the road in the playoffs, going up to New England, taking care of business, right? All the successes you've had. Do you still have something to prove, and what gets you going and what continues to motivate you? Because you could have called it a career. It would have been a beautiful career.
10-5 in the postseason, former Super Bowl MVP.
And who has the Corvette, by the way?
It's in a garage in a house my brother's staying in right now.
Did you sign it? Are you preserving it, or are you just like, man?
I barely.
Is it next to the Volvo?
I barely
is it back
fit
to
in the
the
car, but it is. It's kind of like a trophy. It has it has Super Bowl MVP right next to the VIN number. There's something kind of cool about that. Yeah. I mean,
I'd say so.
Your kids are just gonna jump in and play. Yeah, you're like, hey, that's really important.
They'll look like idiots driving that thing around. I don't think so. Maybe my daughter. I don't know. No, listen, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't still feel like I could play the game.
Right.
I still feel like I can play at a high level. And that's ultimately what motivates me. Yeah. There's some different things in there, but it's ultimately about me believing that I can still playing and owing it to myself to go play. And now, obviously there's a level of proving it to other people and feeling like, why haven't I gotten a chance to go do it? And, but and then I had an injury where I got surgery on my neck a few years ago, and like that kind of gave a little bit of glimpse of, man, am I going to play again? Am I going to be able to play again? Is somebody going to sign me? And it like that wasn't a good feeling, so that gives you that extra like, oh yeah, like it kind of gives that little extra reminder, like, oh man, like yeah, I still love this game, like let's go out there and get going. And listen, like it's not the most fun in the world when you're sitting there and you're the backup and you feel like you can contribute, but it's not your role, So like I've come to the realization of that to a certain extent, and I'm willing to do that, and that's why I'm excited to possibly have the opportunity here to just put my team, put our team in a good position, early in the season.
You're not playing against Lamar Jackson. I mean, obviously you guys will have different uniforms on, and he'll have the former uniform on that you used to wear. But with that being said, what did you see from him early on, and could you have predicted what was to come for him?
I don't know if anybody can predict, to the extent of it. Obviously, you can see, a lot of what he's good at, you can see pretty early on. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
explosive
he jumps off the field. He jumps off the film and in person in terms of how good of an athlete he is and all those things. So you don't always know where that's going to go and stuff like that. I mean, you've seen plenty of players that you feel like can play and they don't end up being able, they don't end up working out for whatever reason. But like I said, a lot of the things that he does well and that you see him do, it's not like you can hide a lot of that stuff. Yeah. So
how do you simulate that in practice? Again, you don't have to worry about it, but
no, you can't. No, yeah, I mean, you just got to make sure you're playing defense the way sound good defense and playing as a team, and obviously guys are going to make their plays here and there and do what they have to do, but you just got to make sure everybody understands what the goal is and that they're out there to play good team defense and do the right thing each play.
Back in the day,
because I got to go there. Right, because on my radio show all week, I've been saying,
it's got to go back to your radio show.
And no shameless plug, don't worry about it. But like, you were the last Raven to bet on himself, and Lamar Jackson finds himself in that similar position, right? Like you bet on yourself, and I've negotiated with Ozzie. And you've negotiated with Ozzie or Eric DeCoste, so we know what that's about.
Right.
But it seems like he's betting on himself, and maybe he's trying to harness his inner Joe Flacco to be able to bet on himself on a contract year and win the Super Bowl and possibly MVP. Now, do you think you guys are going to have a little moment where you pull him to the side like, I feel you, good luck on that, or you guys aren't going to bring it up?
I doubt that.
He might ask you.
Yeah, who knows? Hey,
Flacco, how much they give you when it?
Listen, man, we're talking like 2.5 times that these days. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's why you should play as long as you can, man.
Yeah.
Obviously that it's crazy. I'm sure that will not come up, to be honest with you. I mean, Lamar's a good kid, and I'm sure he'll be worried about just playing the football game. But who knows? Some guy on the side might bring it up randomly. You never know. Bart might be out there on the 50-yard line.
Oh yeah. If Bart sees Lamar, he's going to mention it.
Get that cheese. But how crazy is it, right? So I feel like the quarterback position has become emboldened. We almost call it the NBA, the LeBronization of football, where like you guys understand your value, your worth. You guys are basically the CEO of the organization. You guys are the brand, the face, and you talk about the guaranteed money. Now it's crazy. You talk about $189 million to Kyler Murray. He hasn't even won a playoff game yet. Like, did you ever think that? I knew you knew that it was going to go on a great trajectory, but did you expect it to ever be at this point? And are all your kids going to play quarterback?
Hey, listen, I don't know if my kids, who knows how many positions my kids can play besides quarterback. So maybe they're just lucky in that sense. It's crazy. I mean, by the time my oldest kid's 10, then 8, almost 9. I mean, I was telling Cal, we were joking about this in the locker room the other day. Yeah. By the time he's in college, he might make $25-30 million in college, and then he might sign $1 billion contract if he can make it through his first 4 or 5 years in the NFL and be halfway decent. He signed $1 billion contract, and it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. And obviously, it's all good. And the league's doing so well that it is what it is. I remember back in the day, like when I think I was going into my 4th year, and we were talking about how, it was the first CBA like negotiation I've been through, and back then the topic was why are rookies getting paid so much? And
the Sam Bradford rule.
Shouldn't all the other veterans be getting paid? And I remember trying to tell guys, like, now listen, we've done so well that everybody is getting paid these days because the league has done so well. But, I mean, listen, if you're a 1 or 2, 3 pick and you're going to the worst team in the league, I mean, I think there's a big argument for the fact that you deserve that $80 million. You know, you're going to go get punished and your career might be over because you went to the worst team. And also, I think a lot of the veterans thought, like, oh man, like if they don't get the $80 million, we're just going to get it. And I tried to, no, guys, like the quarterback's going to get it. The quarterback and maybe the corner or defensive end or left tackle, like those are the guys that are going to get the money. You're going to get the same thing, you know.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the way it's gone. Yeah. But we have done so well as a league that really everybody's multiplied so much. So it's all good, all good.
Who's the first person to give you the Joe Cool moniker?
I don't know. I don't.
You know?
I don't really know if I actually was like called
Cool
that
Joe.
at all before. Maybe somebody kind of said it on air at some point.
Yeah,
You know? Not in person.
Yeah.
You know.
I had a different nickname for him.
Go ahead.
We can't say it on
can't?
TV. He threw an out route and I stopped calling it.
All right.
He started balling, man.
Fine,
Like,
we won't go with it. That generational gap, you often laugh about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But you got 5 kids, and your eldest is 10, so they keep you young at heart too.
Yeah. Hey, I joke like Sauce is a lot closer to my oldest son than,
that's funny.
than he is me. You know, every generation I think looks at the generation 10 to 15 years younger than him and says, "Man, what are these kids doing?" You know, like I was looked at some way at some point like that. So I have to remind myself that, you know, it's the same thing. It is different. Like guys are different these days. When the 20 to 25-year-old, it's different.
Yeah, you saw the evolution of the locker room. Like, how is the player different from like
For sure,
when you walked
when
in?
I was in Baltimore, I don't know if I didn't notice it as much because there was enough guys that I was there with a long time, and like the situation was just so consistent in so many ways that I didn't notice it that much. But it wasn't until I left there that I realized, oh man, like it's changing. Like things are different. A lot of the guys, like when I came into the NFL, like all the hit to the helmet and all the different rules started coming in, training camp rules, how much you could be on the field, all those different things. They've kind of been in the league the whole time I've been in the league, 15 years. They've always been making an effort to do those things.
Right.
But, you know, I grew up playing high school and college and stuff like that, and even a little bit of the NFL with just starting on those things. So I've been through it a little bit. These guys today have never even seen football or heard of football, like where the quarterback can't get hit in the head, or you can have 2-a-days or any. They've never been through it. Never. Like we had, you know, when we were in Baltimore, my first year, like I didn't know any better either. Like I was a rookie. Like I just did it. You just do it. Yeah. Like we were having 2.5, 3 hour practices twice a day.
I know.
You know, and guys that are 30 years older than me were laughing at me, but like they were legit practices. And then when we went into the CBA in like 2011, after that first CBA that I was a part of, you could do 4 hours on the field. 3 hours was the max that you could do at one time. So a horn blew, and we went on the field. And then a horn blew 3 hours later, and we came off the field. Guys were dying. Those were almost harder than like the first couple of training camps I've been in because they worked us for 3 straight hours. And in Baltimore, like John wasn't giving us any stretch time or anything. Like it was a full 3 hour practice. Like special teams was the very first thing. Like yes, you were stretching in the locker room. So, you know, it's just different. And like believe, and like I tell guys, like we bitched and complained about it back then. Like it wasn't like we just did it and we're tough about it. Like no, we complained about it, but like
they're soft though. They're soft.
Nowadays we're doing 45 play practices and guys are like, man, like we're full speed, we're pads again. You know, and it's like, guys, we had 110 plays scripted, not 45. You know, so it's just, and like I said, I got to remind myself, like every generation, these guys, if they last 15 years, they're going to be saying the same thing in 15 years about the guys that come into the league. So it just is what it is.
Well, we enjoyed our visit. We know you got to roll.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Harbaugh did say the other day that you'll always be a Raven. But with that being said...
That's fair.
Yeah. But you'll be leading the Jets Sunday. Good luck to you.
Yep, I appreciate it.
Great stuff there from Joe Flacco. That is the way we start the regular season. A former teammate in-house, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about the storylines, they couldn't be better, right? Joe Flacco, you know, going to the team that decided to move on, the team that he had so much success. And I've sat in that same seat that he sat in, and he wants to do well. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he didn't get Joe Cool for a reason. You know, He's always been cool under pressure. He understands the gravity of the moment, but I think he's going to face something that he's never faced before because he may not think that it's going to be emotional, but it is going to be emotional. He doesn't have to have Ray Lewis on the sideline or Ed Reed. Once he sees hardball, he's going to get all those feelings, and he's going to see Lamar, and those competitive juices are going to get going. And, I just can't wait to see how he reacts. You never know. But this is a unique matchup. You got a team that comes in with an exotic defense. We really don't know what this Raven team is going to be all about because they don't have Wink Martindale there anymore. Are they going to be a more conservative defense, or are they going to be, as they've been in the past, an aggressive attacking, defense that's going to create opportunities down the field? Remember, they're trying to implement a rookie into a defense that, can be...
You talking Kyle Hamilton?
Yeah, Kyle
here?
Hamilton. That can be very difficult to kind of pick up, and early on communication. That's why I would look, I would like to see LaFleur come with a lot of shifts and motions to force that young kid to have to be able to communicate. And when you have the opportunity to make some big plays down the field, I think this is going to be a tight game. The Ravens are going to try and impose their will with the running game, and that's a tough task for any defense coming in. Have to learn those principles with Lamar Jackson, the threat of keeping the football. He has the ability to really change your angles. So it's going to be dynamic to see who has the better game plan. Because remember, no matter what we saw in this preseason, EA, everything has led up to this first game getting off to a good start. So all these plays that you put on film, that you really put on so your opponent can see them, everything has, to this point, has been to really prepare for the Raven game.
Offensively, where can the Jets take advantage of the Ravens? Because when you look at the Ravens, at least on paper, you say they got really good cornerbacks, right? You mentioned the rookie safety. I'm looking at the Jets running backs and tight ends. Maybe they can do damage in this game.
Well, absolutely. You talk about up the seams. Hamilton is a rangy, tall guy, but not a speedster. If you can take advantage of him having bad eyes, and you have to do that. To do that, and I know we say this every year, you have to establish the run. You establish the run, you get this guy creeping and peeking, and maybe he sees something that he's not supposed to see. And also on the outside, I don't even know if Marcus Peters is healthy for this game, coming off the ACL surgery. But you have Marcus Peters, who's always been, a feast of famine type of cornerback. He's a guy that's going to, believe in his eyes, and sometimes that gets him in trouble. So if I ever see those two to the same side,
you're going there.
I'm going there because that's a recipe that's trying, get bad communication with a young rookie, and bunch routes. Right, when you have a rookie and you have to talk about if you identify man coverage, you can get him in where he has to communicate, and all the time they don't use their words, and it should be a loud environment, a hostile environment, cheering, excitement, and sometimes you just don't hear the correction when you have a shift of motion and bunch packages, and that's what you take advantage of. It's going to be explosive plays, but I think it's going to be tough sledding on both sides. The Ravens don't have tremendous pass rushing. They got Justin Houston, and on the other side, Oweh, who had a great season for a rookie, but it wasn't one of the best seasons. It wasn't a 10-sack season. He gets a lot of pressure, but he's still green as far as being able to go against a veteran, like Brown. You get him to that side, maybe you can take advantage of him.
That's what I want to ask you real quick about the Jets' offensive line. Any concerns there? Because I thought they were really fortunate to get a guy like Dwayne Brown after Mekhi Becton goes down, and I think he's a very good player. With that being said, this offensive line hasn't played together that much. We saw him a couple snaps against the New York Giants, but across the board, if you go left to right, you say the players are definitely there. What's the challenge communication-wise now? They're going to be ramping up and playing 60 plays this game or 70.
Well, you also look at Breece Hall, right? Because if he's in, he's going to be built into that, or Michael Carter going to be built into that pass protection. And, are they on the same level? Are they seeing the same thing? Because at the end of the day, the running back has to make somebody right. And what gives you peace is the fact that you understand that they have two veteran guards. And, you don't want instant interior pressure. And, you understand that guys like Dwayne, even though, he's on the outside, he understands that I got the widest guy. I'm responsible for the widest guy, unless we're full sliding and we're going to try and let the running back in. So you have to keep your packages really tight. We don't know what type of Ravens defense we're going to see.
Right.
I just don't know. Like Wink Martindale, as a coordinator, blitzed more than any. The Ravens blitz percentage were higher than anybody, but this is a different outfit. and they don't have the same personnel that they had before. Can you take advantage of Patrick Queen? Can you take advantage of whoever's not Patrick Queen on the second level as far as getting them into the communication, routes, things of that sort? But it's going to be imperative that they're able to consistently flip the field, no 3-and-outs, move the ball, and try and win the field position battle, because the first team that has a mistake is going to put their team in a bad position, and that could be the difference in the game.
Lamar's going to get his yards, we know that, but what's the key in terms of containing him, making sure he doesn't go off and have one of those all-star-like performances that we've seen oftentimes from him? He's such a tough guy to prepare for.
Right.
And then you can't compare him to anybody in the NFL.
Maybe Kyler Murray is the only comp that you can say, okay, a guy that can kind of give you fits. He's faster than, fast and quick, but he's still not Lamar Jackson. But that's the closest thing you have to him. You have to try and make him beat you with his arm. You can't allow him to beat you with his legs. He's one of these rare athletes or quarterbacks that can have explosives with his legs and his arm. He can just as easily, turn a run to a 20, 30-yard run in a blink of an eye, especially if you dare to play man-to-man coverage, because now you play man-to-man coverage, everybody backs are turned, he breaks contain. That's why you're going to have to be disciplined. And you want to try and flush him to his left to force him that if he does flush to his left, if you're going to give up an edge, you give it to your left, because he's going to run, because anything else would be thrown across his body, and that's quarterbacks aren't accurate. But last year, for the first time, he really struggled. He had some games where he had 3-4 interceptions. So you want to try and understand that, hey, his target is Mark Andrews.
Yep.
You take that away, and if the other guys beat you, God bless.
Do you spy him? And also, you mentioned Andrews. He was targeted something like 130 times last year, something ridiculous. What do you do from a coverage perspective?
Well, you have to bracket him.
Yep.
You have to bracket him. You have to lean on your safeties. As far as and maybe sometimes you're getting a piece of them, but they'll do a good job. They'll move them around. They won't have them in predictable positions, and you have to do a good job. Understand that eventually that ball is going to him. So if you got a death by 1,000 paper cuts, you say, okay, I'm going to see if you can matriculate the ball down the field, see if you can dink and dunk and stay patient without getting a holding penalty with all these exotic runs that you do, without getting an illegal procedure, a false start. Let's see if you can go down the field 12. No explosives, because if Mark Andrews is making a catch, it's usually on the hashes or the numbers, and that's Lamar Jackson's safety valve.
What's the Jets' ceiling this year? We just talked to Flacco about it before. You sense that, hey, we do have a lot of talent, but there is a lot unknown as we approach the season.
And that's the beauty of when you don't know. You shouldn't have a fear of anybody. If you play at your game, and you have a lot of young guys that are coming from college that have a lot of bravado, a lot of swag, right? You look at Garrett Wilson. He came from a winning program, and he's going to think that he can do the same thing and not miss a step, because it has been guys who have come in, whether it's Jamar Chase, whether it's Justin Jefferson, that have come into this league and kind of hit it full stride. And so he should have the same goals, that he can be one of those guys and not be one of these receivers that struggle, because receivers come in the league now and they're able to have productivity. Look at Elijah Moore. You can have productivity because the game in college now emulates the game in the pros, not vice versa. You know what I mean? It's not, it used to be that college used to influence the pros. Now it's that the pros and the guys that come from college, because they throw so much in college, the passing game is ahead of even the running game, and understanding, zone concepts and reading the 3 technique, the 5 technique, and when to bounce the ball, when to cut it back. I think they have to really lean on that, and also the fact that, Breece Hall should have a lot of confidence. He's a first-round draft pick. He's my dark horse for Rookie of the Year.
Well, I love this. Yeah. Joe Douglas said, we got to be playing meaningful football in December. We expect to be playing meaningful football in December. Now, connect that with Robert Saleh. Saleh saying, we got a really cool group, but it's going to be interesting to see who's going to grab the bull by the horns in the fourth quarter. Who are our dudes going to be? Because on paper and what we've seen on the practice field, the Jets have a lot of explosive talent, but who are the guys going to step up in crunch time?
I mean, you have to lean on your leaders first, right? And then you hope that the young guys get the experience during the beginning of the year, and you watch the pros walking around and about how to prepare and how to take advantage, right? Because teams in the league are going to save things for certain game plans, team specific but also situation specific. So how do you try and educate these young guys that have a lot of talent, but teach them the nuance of the game, right? How do you build up their football acumen? Like, how do you tell them, okay, expect this in third down, you have to get to the sticks. You can't come short. You have to get past the sticks and come back. It's all the small things that add up to winning and losing, because most games in the league are lost, not won, right? So let's not beat ourselves. Let's not have untimely penalties because we're undisciplined. And let's take advantage of the opportunities we get when the other team, makes their mistakes and jump off sides, taking shots, being on the same page. I mean, one thing we know about Joe Flacco, his arm is always live and he can push the ball down the field. So, make plays for your quarterback, but also defensively, you should take it personal, the fact that you were considered one of the worst defenses in the league.
Yeah.
Now everybody's healthy. You have Carl Lawson. You have, a healthy Quentin Williams. Franklin Myers moving back to his more natural position. But now we need guys like Johnson to step up, right? But we have to educate him, because there's going to be certain things he's going to struggle with. Let him know, hey, we don't let anything, especially this week, if you get in, we do not lose contain on Lamar Jackson. That is the job. Everybody does your job so we all can succeed.
How charged up is that environment going to be? One of my favorite moments working here was the 9/11 game against the Dallas Cowboys, 10 years after September 11th, of course, and now Sunday, Jets, Ravens, 21 years after 9/11.
It's going to be emotional.
Yeah.
It's going to be emotional. Everybody can kind of remember where they were when 9/11 happened. We understood that it was sports that brought this town back together, right? That gave them peace, a sense of normalcy. You know what I mean? So, like, now you talk about celebrating it once again coming around. I think the fans will be emotional, passionate. And I think just the fact that it's the start of the football season is going to amp it up to a level that's going to be ridiculous. But when you look at it from as far as being a player, you have to keep your emotions intact, understanding they can be emotional. You have to be professional. You have to understand that you can tire yourself out in warm-ups. For the first game, what happens is you aren't prepared to go a full game yet, because you haven't taken yourself there. You haven't played 80 snaps as fast as you can go with special teams. And a lot of these guys are finding it out this week.
Yeah.
Once the cuts happen, now you are the look team. Now it's nobody to look and say, okay, can you go? I'm a little tired. You have to build that cardio up. So that's why you want to make sure that you're able to be disciplined, because those little things happen. You worry about special team mishaps, and you worry about, like, receivers and defenders, receivers not running the right routes, which leads to interceptions, and also communication on the back end, if you can get guys mixed up with crossing routes and things of that sort.
We're off to a great start. We go back to 2009 at SUNY Cortland when I tracked you down. I begged you, let's do some Jets radio. And you said, I don't know if I want to do any of that. I don't know if I want to do any of that. And now look at you.
It's like SpongeBob?
Yeah, 13 years
later.
13 years later. The
still
band
together.
is back together. And hopefully you all like this. Rate, review, subscribe. We'll also be on YouTube throughout the season.
Better subscribe. I don't get no cheese on my taco.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you get your cheese this year. There's not about that. And we'll see you all next week.